and welcome everybody to this week's episode of Nerdflix and Chill, brought to you by We the Nerdy. I'm Gary Theroux, and over there is a guy who just told me he doesn't think midgets should have the right to vote. It's Sean Capri.
They're not real people, Gary. Why would you back me into that corner? God, there was only one way. In improv, it's yes and I couldn't shut that down. I don't appreciate that. But it was, it's a commitment to the craft. It's nothing is scripted. If people didn't know, we don't have a script.
Yeah. It's
just next thing you know, we're alienating our dwarf audience. Is that, or little people? I feel like that's wrong too. Good, we're off to a terrible start. What did you do to me, Gary?
Oh, I love this show so much. Like I said, welcome everybody to episode 17. We're talking about Sausage Party, which is a movie that is at least that offensive and uncomfortable. And then, quite possibly the best movie ever, Shawshank Redemption, is what we covered in this week's 6 Degrees of Chill. But first things first, I'm just so happy to be back again this week. How you doing, Sean?
I am great. The whole time I was watching Shawshank Redemption, I was thinking, of course, of the greatest Jim Carrey movie of all time, Ace Ventura 2, When Nature Calls. Great reference in there. I've been trying to get kind of like sound effects coming to the show. They're coming very soon. We were so close, folks. Very close to just dropping some, great Morgan Freeman lines. You're just gonna have to play those in your head for one more week, getting a little closer, but we're working on a shoestring budget. And what does a shoestring budget even mean? I guess you need 2 shoestrings? You'd like 2 shoestrings because you have 2 shoes?
I would guess it's when you have shoes but no shoestrings and you can't afford to go get them because you're on a budget.
Okay, I'll let this one go. This one works. How have you been?
I'm doing good. I had a terrific week. I am in full on work like crazy, party like crazy, pack like crazy mode. So never stop here. I'm planning Euro trip 2016.
Nice.
With some friends and family and looking to get out of here and leave you with some upcoming special guest hosts, that you guys can look forward to, getting away from me for a week at a time. And, I think it's going to be awesome. And I'd like to say I'm having a great week. I
think that we're just going to keep up this little, charade that we are going to have, guests come on board. But instead, by then, I hope to have full on soundboard capabilities. And I'm just going to have like a conversation with myself and then play back sound effects. I could have like Arnold Schwarzenegger as a guest and just do that whole spiel.
I'd love to see you do the show with yourself and an Isaac Hayes soundboard.
No, I'll create a soundboard for you.
Oh yeah.
I'll have all your little things that you say. Or I could have me and we could have 2 of me. It'll just be just nonsense the whole time. At least if I were to create a soundboard with you, I would just have you say words like stoic and, I'm not, I can't even come up with the vocabulary you've got. But that's,
yeah, I was gonna say, I think that's an indictment of your own.
Oh, look at that. See, stoic and indictment. And then yes. Yep, we'll just rip off things that we've heard off other podcasts, so.
Well, I'm looking forward to you and your high production sound effects too. I feel like the fact that it didn't work out this week is just more of a sign that the war against the machines has begun. And
I am using Google, which is of course Skynet. We all know
absolutely. We'll soon be calling up Sarah Connor and trying to get some help in this endeavor.
Mm-hmm. That sounds good.
Well, with that being said, I'm excited to talk about everything we got this week. Like I say, a bunch of good stuff. But as always, we're going to be starting with trailer talk again this week, and we're going to guess some future Rotten Tomato scores based on little to no information, because that's what ignorant people do.
Yes.
So let's pass judgment on years and years and years of other people's hard work and see what we come up with.
I like it. I am excited by this batch. It's a weird kind of just eclectic little bunch of movies. Starting with Masterminds. I actually I walked in the movie that we saw today, Sausage Party. I skipped all of the car commercials and the weep-inducing Coca-Cola commercials that we've discussed before. Walked right into when Mastermind started, and this was the first time I saw this preview, and it's like, I feel like we're now getting into a time where, everybody who's in this movie, so like the Kristen Wiig's, the Jason Sudeikis, that whole crew, I think they're kind of done with like side projects, it seems, and now they're coming together and it's like, we don't have some of them in like a thing like Bridesmaids. They're like everybody is in this movie and it looks hilarious. It looks like beyond stupid, like a MacGruber, but maybe good? Yeah. Possibly. Like MacGruber I love, don't get me wrong, I love MacGruber, but it's a bad movie. This looks like it's got some power behind it. It almost looks unstoppable, actually.
Well, and I think the good thing about this and the thing you're describing is that you see a movie like this and you know all the people and they've done so much work together and it's like, oh, that person's worked with that person, but I don't know if they've been in the same movie with them before.
Totally.
But it seems like they're all in a college course for comedy or improv together and they just keep pumping out projects, but they did a sticks in the middle thing for like who's going to be grouped together this time, right? They seem like friends. It seems like you're watching people who like each other get together and do movies. So I think that comes across in the fact that you get a lot of people with the same sensibilities, and I think that gives us as the viewer a certain amount of comfort in that you have a built-in opinion on these people, and even if, like you say, the movie's not great, you'll get some satisfaction based on the fact you like their comic sensibilities, right? So in this case, it appears to be Zach Galifianakis being an incredibly dumb and weird person trying to pull off a heist at the behest of Owen Wilson, also being manipulated by either Kate McKinnon or Kristen Wiig. It looks like it's going to be a bunch of dumb, silly fun, and I have high hopes for it in terms of my enjoyment of it, but this exercise with the Rotten Tomato scores predictions that we do is not about how much we'll enjoy it, it's about what we think the critics will decide, and I don't have the highest hopes that it'll be well received. I think it'll be generally positive, but without any real booming enthusiasm for it. So 63% is what I will say.
It seems like there might be a maximum score that comedies like this can ever achieve. Like, I don't know off the top of my head, and that's why I love this game. We can kind of dive into Rotten Tomatoes a little bit here. But, like, I think that maybe, like, the maximum a comedy can really score with critics is, like, an 80% or something. So a 63 really, like, it sounds worse than it really is, but it's mostly like, it's on the majority side being positive.
And it will be fresh.
It will be certified fresh. 63. Let's see. I think that I'm going to go I don't know. This could be like a We the Millers or whatever that was called.
We're the Millers is a hilarious movie.
Why did I say We the Millers? I don't know. I'm tired, guys. I've been trying to figure out this stupid sound effects. I'm going to go 70. Go a little higher. I was encouraged by it. I think this is a great cast. I love Owen Wilson. I want to see more of Katie McKinnon. Leslie Jones, I think, is going to kill it. Looks great. I'm going to go with 70. We will find out on September 30th.
Yeah, exactly. And that should be fun. So the next preview you saw is for another comedy, in keeping with the movie we're about to see, called Why Him? And this is, Bryan Cranston and Megan Mullally play the parents of a young girl who meets a new boyfriend and brings the family to meet her new boyfriend, that they're affianced, I believe, at this point already. And it turns out that the boyfriend is an internet zillionaire / intolerable douchebag played by James Franco, and it just looks like a showpiece for him to be absolutely insane and crazy. And I think Cranston is going to play the straight man who's driven slowly mad in a Griswoldian fashion. And I think it's going to be fun and, again, entertaining for the people who are willing to suspend disbelief or accept that we're not going to go see the Shawshank Redemption here. We're watching a dumb movie with kind of shallow characters, and we're here for the jokes, people. So, again, a very unenthusiastic, meh kind of score for me for a movie that I think I'm kind of going to enjoy. I'm going to give it the old 47.
So I hate We Meet the Parents. I hate it. This is kind of like the opposite, but I don't know if like all the jokes are going to be are in this trailer. This looks funny though. Like we got the Red Band trailer when we watched Sausage Party, or when I saw it today, we got the Red Band trailer. It looks funny. It looks shocking. It looks like it's able to kind of do something a little different that Meet the Parents wasn't. That was still kind of supposed to be family oriented a little bit, even though like with the whole Fokker joke and all that kind of stuff. This looks like it could be. I just don't know about Bryan Cranston. I don't know that he's being picky enough with his post Breaking Bad life. Like, I was really hopeful for Godzilla just because, like, Bryan Cranston was, I feel like he was, like, offering some sort of legitimacy to the movie, and then it was whatever. It was fine. And then I just don't know what he's doing. And I want him to do something great. I really want him to break out in, like, I'd like to see him do, like, just come out in this comedy world in a strong way, even though that's kind of where he's coming from. I don't know.
So is this a point in your rant where I'm supposed to inject the fact that he was nominated for a Best Actor Oscar last year, or am I supposed to not bring that up?
I mean, that's fine, but it's just like, that's one of how many movies. And like, would you say all of his movies are, like, there are some actors who move on and it's like, everything is great. But there's some who's just like, I don't know, I don't get a sense that he's got like a real, like, strong footing here.
Well,
in this
felt
area.
Okay, so that's just a matter of perspective then, right? Because you think this is a wobbly re-entry into the comedy field, whereas like, this is him, sort of, acknowledging the fact that he was Malcolm's dad for so many years, and he can do this as well. And just because he did Breaking Bad doesn't mean he can't do anything, fun anymore or light anymore. Not everything has to be Trumbo or, Argo and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I have loved a lot of the stuff on his, filmography here in the last little while. Drive, Lincoln Lawyer. He played a douchebag in Larry Crown that I thought.
Yeah, like I like him in the serious stuff, but I would love for him to somehow kind of made the transition into like a Leslie Nielsen type of thing a little better. But he seems a little almost too self-aware in this trailer. So this is a very long-winded way of me kind of going along the same lines as you. Gosh, I was laughing in the trailer though. That's the frustrating part. I'm gonna go 40.
So you don't want to eviscerate. You don't think it's going to be absolute garbage just because the quality people in it, hopefully.
No, yeah, I don't know. This could be one of those complete hits or total disasters. But I just wanted to mumble my way through saying that I don't know what Bryan Cranston is doing on the funny side. I would love for him to just kind of like, he is funny, but I don't find him hilarious yet, even in his Malcolm in the Middle days.
Okay, well, I'm gonna tweet Heisenberg and try and get him to join us on a 3-way Skype call and give you shit and say he knows what he's doing. You can fuck right off.
But I've seen him and I've seen him do like not movies, but funny. Like yes. I've seen him do stuff with Adam Carolla and it's hilarious. But again, that was right off the heels of Breaking Bad. Anyways, completely
moving on.
Beating this stupid dead horse.
So in terms of not knowing what you're doing, the people who ordered these trailers, it's like, great, we're seeing an R-rated comedy. We saw trailers for R-rated comedies, but next, let's watch the trailer for Resident Evil, the final chapter. I didn't know that they didn't already have final chapters. I thought the series was done. I can admit here, without any shame, that I've never seen a single Resident Evil movie.
Oh, Gary.
And I don't feel that I should have. I don't think I'd hate them. I'm not, like, it never came up, and once I missed the first couple, it's like, why do I have to watch episode 9 or episode 11, whatever they are? Like, I don't know how many they've made.
I don't know either.
I feel
nobody knows.
Really, really bad for Lilu Multipass that this is the only work she can appear to get anymore, is coming out with an unexpected Resident Evil movie every 4.5 years.
You'd rather be like, kind of like a weird silent character. You'd rather just shut up and wear nothing but mummy tape across her boobs for the entire
Absolutely.
show? Okay, okay. Yeah, you're right. This is way worse.
Make the 6th and 7th elements, right?
Okay.
We can get Chris Tucker some work. That'd be great.
Mm-hmm,
right?
Mm-hmm. Get Jackie Chan in there too. Cause why not?
Yeah, let's just mix shit, like MIB mixing with 21 Jump Street, which apparently isn't happening anymore. Anyways, we've digressed. You can tell because I don't give a fuck about this movie. the temptation to cheat here is overwhelming, because I've never seen a Resident Evil movie, and I have no idea what the Rotten Tomato scores are like. But I feel like critics tend to, like, go over their own work. I feel like if I was doing movie criticism as a career and writing about movies, when a new movie came out, I'd be like, I don't want to repeat what I wrote the last 6 times this movie came out, so I'm going to go check it out. And you'll realize that a series like this might settle into a groove of, like, dispassionate acceptance of, like, all right, well, they keep making these, and they're going to keep going whether I shit on it or not. So you won't find that anger or that hatred for it. But I think generally negative is a safe bet on Rotten Tomatoes, sort of positive, negative, thumbs up, thumbs down kind of scoring system. So I don't think this ends well for this movie. and I'll say 22%.
Yeah, gosh, I wish we were a little further apart on this one. I'm gonna go with a quick 30. I think the trailer was trying really hard. It had the Guns N' Roses song, and it was trying to be kind of hard edge, but it was just kind of a mess. Like, even their kind of clever ways of mixing in the song and the gunshots with the drum beats, it didn't really work. And I feel like if you can't make a trailer work, then the movie's gonna be even, like, that's supposed to be your best, like, selling point. Your selling feature is the trailer.
I don't know if you're aware of the plot of the movie The Lake House, starring Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves, but I think, and I've never seen it, but I think they use a mailbox to transport letters to each other back and forth through time. And all of this is just to set up the idea that I wonder if what happened is they made this movie, and then to edit the trailer, they put a copy of the raw footage into a mailbox and sent it to, like, Dane Cook in 2008. And he was like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna make this so BA. Like, it just, it was annoying. It was pretty bad. Like, yeah, this trailer, again, I've said it about other trailers, but this trailer is wearing boat shoes with no socks. Like, this trailer is absolutely the height of douchebaggery for me, and I'm just not interested at all.
Yeah, no, it's not going to be good. The final chapter is probably there to put butts in the seats as if this is your last chance to see this Resident Evil thing, but we've all seen it before. There's even a throwback to the lasers from the very first one. I've seen the first two. Not too bad, but no. 30%
first
2 Resident Evil movies.
Out of how many?
I don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody knows the number of how many there are. It's an impossibility. We have the power of the internet in front of us, but we do not know how many Resident Evil movies. I don't even think Mila Jovovich knows.
See, now you know why I call her Lilu Multipass.
Yeah, well, is it a soft J? Is it a yogging? Or is it a Jovo? And then how many syllables are we working with here? God.
I'm so proud to know you. I'm so proud to know you. Okay, so the last trailer, again, because we have no tonal knowledge whatsoever of putting together a list of trailers like a playlist and having any flow. We get a trailer that shocked me. Like, I did not see it coming as the fourth trailer in this grouping being a horror movie, and even less so did I see me thinking that horror movie is going to be fucking awesome, because I don't like horror movies, but this looks amazing. It's for a horror / thriller called Don't Breathe. And it shows a couple of youngish kids, a guy and a girl. Couples are always the ones that get in shit, ever since Friday the 13th, I think. You've got to have young, attractive couples being the ones who get fucked with. And in this case, they go into a house and they break in because they heard it's got loot in it. And they're gonna break in and they're gonna steal it and they're gonna bust out of town, and they're moving across the tracks, and they're never coming back to this shithole. And then they go into the house, and shit goes sideways from there. So Stephen Lang, the badass military commander from Avatar, plays a jacked-ass, white-haired blind dude who's living in that house, and who causes things to go wrong. And I don't know if this is going to have more plot and more time sort of examining the relationship between the young people in the house as fear takes them over in the way that a movie like Green Room did, which I absolutely loved, or if this is going to be more of a straight down the lane jump scare horror movie. But whether it's good or bad, a giant kudos to whoever put together this trailer, because I am psyched. I am so very much in.
Especially the person who put this trailer together knew that nobody really has heard about this movie. There's not really been any rumblings that this was even happening. So they played with us a little bit. They introduced this idea of the heist, of the break-in, and you almost think like this is going to be maybe a bit of an adventure, like the anti-heroes. You have these people that are up to no good. You don't really know what's going to happen to them. There's these juvenile delinquent kind of story. And then just all of a sudden, things get really terrible. You almost think like, oh man, I cannot believe that they're breaking into this blind dude's house. Like, he's just old and blind. Why would they do that to him? And he is more than capable of taking care of himself, as we see in the trailer. And so you almost think like, okay, maybe they're going to get themselves into maybe a hostage situation, because he starts boarding things up, and then things get terrifying. Like, they really took us on a ride, and I appreciated every second of that. I really hope that the movie can live up to this. I am going to predict a fairly optimistic score here. I'm going to go 75 on the Rotten Tomatoes score.
I'm hoping that the originality of this and the fact that it's so freaky plays out in the actual story. I am trying to tamp down my own expectations because this was such a great trailer.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, I'm going to definitely love this thing. And in the same way where I downgraded the comedies because they're comedies and critics don't generally fall in love. I just did the
same thing.
I can't go much higher than you, but I'm going to go for broke here and say I love, just like the movie we're about to talk about, Sausage Party, I love entirely original ideas.
Yeah.
And something about this felt fresh and new to me. And I hope that shows through in its scores, and I'm going to give it an 85.
Yeah, it was very dynamic in the number of shots and the different styles that they show, and even when he just flips off all the power, he goes, "You're going to see what I see," and that, like, it's a different style on the night vision. It's not classic green with glowing eyes. It's just monochromatic, and it looks really, really terrifying. Just seeing right into the eyes, and the pupils are trying their hardest to try and see any or receive any kind of light. You can see their eyes just as wide as possible. And just everybody has known that feeling if they've ever been in their parents' basement and the power goes out and there's nothing but black, and just kind of like waving your arm out front, trying to gain your bearings. Great shots. I really hope this movie does well. We'll find out soon on, August 26th, the same day as Resident Evil. We may have some choices ahead of us here, Gary.
I know which one of those two I want to go see with you, so.
We should have the listeners decide the movies we're gonna see for us in some way. We don't want to even leave that one up to chance.
That.
I have a feeling I know which ones they'd want.
They listen to us. Okay, this is the kind of life decisions they're making.
That's
okay?
true. I don't know what you guys are doing.
As far as I can throw them. So, with that said, we'll move on to the main event of the evening. We'll talk about, Sausage Party. Also, huge Scrabble score for Monochromatic, by the way. Well played. And, we'll move on. We'll move on to Sausage Party. So, I will start this by just saying, I went and saw it with just one friend, and who might be the only guy, who, other than myself, who can't get offended at anything. Like, the idea that something offensive would be said and we would register shock seemed odd to us, seemed foreign to me. And yet between the two of us, I bet you, I think I counted 15 times someone said, "Oh Jesus," or "What the fuck?" Like, I cannot believe what I am watching. So for those of you who don't know, this is, Seth Rogen and, that whole crew, Jonah Hill, Michael Cera, Bill Hader, Kristen Wiig. This is their hard R-rated cartoon, like narrowly missed out on an NC-17 rating. And the plot line is as follows. The products at a grocery store called Shopwells are made to believe in a code that helps them live happy lives until they realize that might not be the case. And, Seth Rogen plays Frank. He's a hot dog. Kristen Wiig plays his friend, Brenda the Bun, his girlfriend, and they can't wait to get taken out to the great beyond outside of the shopping market, together so that he can get himself into her bun. And we go on an adventure from there, but I tell you, without spoiling anything, that the plot from that point forward is not at all the point of this movie. It is really just a round attempt to offend absolutely every person watching equally.
Yeah, exactly.
And try and be as offensive as possible. Try and be smart about it. Highbrow jokes, lowbrow puns. Nick Kroll's villain character is transcendent. It's based on a character he does called Bobby Bottle Service. They've updated it here. They give personification to all these foods and all the products in the shopping market. It's insane. There's music. There is an inordinate amount of sex and sexual references. It is a collection of jokes that left me feeling like I can't wait to watch that like 5 to 9 more times with all of my best friends so that we can register the number of jokes. This was an AK-47 of jokes for however long it took. They just kept coming and coming and coming. And like I say, for me, the plot was absolutely secondary. What about you? Yeah,
and we all know that AK-47s are famous for never jamming up. So it just kept not only just rapid fire, but that thing just like nonstop. This is a crazy cast. There are so many people in this movie, whether big parts or small parts. And I was really taken by, like you mentioned, the originality of this, and then also what we're able to do with very limited scope. I don't want to give too much away, but we don't really go to too many places here. It's mainly a grocery store, and so we kind of establish right off the bat that we get there's a little bit of a musical portion to this, so it's a little artistic taste. I was definitely reminded of Team America and South Park. Like this was almost like an ode by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg to what's been done, what is now 20 years ago.
Yeah,
which makes, or like, at least I don't even know, but it makes me feel incredibly old.
The influence, and I think that's a great point, because the influence of Matt and Trey, and South Park's sensibilities is so clear here, and I think a large part of that comes from Bill Hader, right, having written on South Park for so long, and then being part of this crew, and it's absolutely fits into that mold, and I think of it like you said. I think that's a great way to put it. More of an ode to those things than an attempt to copycat, because they're not retreading the same stuff, that's for sure.
No, and like you said, everybody is offended equally, I think, which is, I haven't seen a movie like that in forever, and I have been I think we talked about this on a show a couple weeks ago, and I'm dancing on a fine line here where I want movies to like push the boundaries. I want them to kind of like play with stereotypes and make it okay, but like to laugh at ourselves and laugh at each other and to play on some of those kind of stereotypes, because it's kind of like some of them make sense with the food. There is a relationship with a lot of race jokes. Some of them, it doesn't make any sense at all. And you're like, where does that even come from? But in the end, it doesn't matter at all. It is so in your face, so unapologetic about how offensive it is, but not sometimes that can fall flat too, where you can tell that the jokes are shallow and they're just trying to offend you. It all just seems to work. There's a lot of love that's been created or given into creating this whole environment. And you buy into the fact of these groceries live in this world, same way you did with Toy Story, but just completely perverted and just 100% backwards from what you think from the style and from the characters that you see.
And I think that's a great thought, because it leads me to think of, what you were saying there leads me to think of, other movies that are openly offensive or go for the hard R rating, and they're trying to throw stereotypes in your face and make you laugh and stuff like that. And I feel like you talked about the love that was put into this. I think what comes across when these movies are done well is a certain measure of sincerity or purpose, right? Are you trying to say something with everything you're throwing out there? In this case, it feels like an absolute examination of sort of
mortality.
Well, those themes are obviously explored, but if I had to talk about the overarch, I would say it's about challenging why people get offended, right? And what are all your hot buttons, right? And where did you get them from? How much do they matter? And how important is it for you to cling to them? Can you let those things go, right? Because they hammer on everything here, and like I say, equal opportunity offenders, right? And as soon as you think that they're taking a certain angle, and it's like, oh no, we're not just passing judgment on all these people, we're taking a stance, and this is the right way, then they lampoon that as well. And they don't take sides in that sense. And it's kind of becomes like, why would you be completely convicted in anything? Right? And it's almost a bit anarchist in that sense. And whether you come out agreeing or thinking about stuff like that out of a movie this dumb and this on its surface shallow seeming, I don't know. But for me, I think that whether it comes to mind, because it didn't for me until you brought that up, what makes this different from every other shocking comedy that doesn't play as well for me for 90 minutes, I think is that innate sense that these people have something to say. So I really enjoyed my time at the theater. Very, very hard to judge, like to critique this and put a number on it, because I don't know where to put this in my mind in terms of like I say, the plot for me was so forgettable. Like I can't remember why they were going where they were going and what they were doing. It's just like, it's just a collection of jokes, but they were great, and I was laughing a ton
And I think I've said the same thing about Toy Story as well, where it's like, what were they doing again? Like, and it didn't matter. It was a great cast of characters. And the thing about this movie versus other comedies that are really trying to push our buttons is, that we've never seen food do this before. And there's really no way for dick jokes and sex jokes to play out in this way because you just don't see grocery store movies every day. So they don't really rely on the shock full frontal shot in this because they're food. So I think that it was really clever of them to just they could have told the story in a number of different ways. I like that the comedy for me really hit. So that's a big portion of it. If you really want to dive into this thing, there are layers of religious themes. There is the mortality stuff. There's a lot here if you really want to kind of do a book report on it. But if you just want to go to a movie and have a good laugh and just leave all your sensibilities at the door, especially in the last couple minutes, I mean, it's almost like they decided we're only going to show the first 95% of this to the ratings board. We're going to keep just a couple minutes in our back pocket. And then once we get everything good, everything's approved. Oh, by the way, here's this last couple of minutes of it is so beyond. And I love that this is almost becoming a bit of a hallmark for Seth Rogen and crew to just, the last couple of minutes throw something at you that you kind of knew, like there's a little bit of foreshadowing for stuff, but then it's just like nobody could ever have seen this coming. And I love it. I don't want to say anything more about that because it's getting on spoilers. It's almost worth that last couple of minutes alone, just to go see this movie.
Yeah, it's for me, it's in, like I say, a category all its own, and it's something that, I think a lot of people are gonna just not see any of the charm and not see any redeeming qualities here because it's so abjectly horrible and offensive right off the bat. And you can kind of see that in scores, right? 82% from critics, 64% from fans. This is totally a dog whistle type movie where if you're in, you're in, and if you're not, there's no people who are like, oh, I thought Sausage Party was fine. You either like this stuff or you don't, and I can see it going sideways on someone real quickly.
This is an age thing, I think, too. This is me getting on my soapbox again. The critics are generally like our age and maybe older, and then maybe the fans are maybe the younger kids who just get offended at everything. I just don't. What is this world that we live in? What is?
Is that the case? I thought you were going the other way around. Like,
no.
Young people have no filters anymore, so you can say anything about anything.
I think it's the opposite. I think it's the kids on the internet getting offended at absolutely everything, or it just doesn't hit. This might be a generational thing, but I'm not sure. That's my guess, and that's my weekly take on the kids ruining the world these days.
There you go. Yeah. Well, I hope those kids find a safe space. And for you, what does all this come out to in number form? If you're going to give a rating, first, I assume you're recommending it. You would say see it. And then what does that mean in score form?
Absolutely see this. I mean, with a slight disclaimer, if you are one to get offended, it's fine. You can be offended. But I really think you're missing out on something special here. It is ridiculous. It is stupid. See it with people who you can trust, and it is okay to laugh at these things with that person. Luckily, I was with someone who was totally fine laughing at these stupid things. I was laughing the loudest, so that's always troublesome. I had maybe a half full theater, and there were a couple giggles, but there was a couple moments where I was almost embarrassed at how hard I was laughing because I found some of the racial stuff to be hilarious, or I don't even know. There's a whole bunch of jokes here. We're focusing mostly on the race stuff, but a lot of good jokes. I would definitely recommend it. I'm upwards on the 4 out of 5 stars.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well that's great.
I also appreciate a good 90-minute length movie. Bonus points for just the good. They didn't need to go any longer than this.
Exactly. No need to stretch this thing out. You've got a shallow premise, and you know you're making a shallow movie, and you can only hammer the same joke so much, so to keep it moving at a brisk pace, right, is a great idea. It's good filmmaking, right? I think you're right. I think maybe an abjectly horrible first date movie if you don't know the person.
Or the best first date movie.
Yeah, you might, if you're looking to cull your roster down and find out whether this person is matches your sensibility or not, this will find that out right quick if you
just
guys are on
skip
the same
6
page.
steps. Or the 20 questions?
I feel like I'm in real time coming to a realization of how critics come to these prejudices that we were talking about when we were predicting the scores for comedy trailers, right? Because I'm sitting here saying I laughed my ass off, I liked the movie, and I'm thinking, 4 out of 5 movie, come on, Sean, you've got to leave that for high quality films, right?
Yep.
But I think I'm going to reject that sense. I was going to go lower, and I was trying to figure out why was I going lower? Why was I shocked you said 4 to 5? And there is no good reason to. It's a 4 out of 5 movie. If you classify it properly as what we've talked about, simple and shallow and all these things, then within that context, they executed their goal quite well.
Yeah.
And I think, 4 out of 5. You know what? I'm going to go from, oh my goodness, I never saw that coming, to agreeing with you wholeheartedly. You have convinced me. This is a 4 out of 5 movie. Absolutely see it. And like Sean says, if you're offended, be offended. Not a big deal. Just don't tweet about it. Go home, right? And go watch something else.
Absolutely. They have the right to make this kind of movie. It is what it is. I was worried going in that it would be too on the nose, like some of the jokes and a lot of phallic symbols here, a lot of similarities in the different body parts with food, as it turns out, but super creative, and like even some of the action sequences I thought were really great. There's a transcendent moment where things come together. I thought that was done really creatively, and I was never bored. I was entertained the entire time, whether I was laughing or thinking or just like concerned with my own ethics and why am I laughing at this, and it's totally fine.
It's one of the best sensations I've ever felt in a movie theater, which is, oh my god, I can't believe I'm the type of person that would laugh at that. That is like objectively a horrible thing to say.
100%.
On a film screen. I can't believe this is allowed. And I was shocked at my own shock.
And I haven't done that since Team America. Like, that's really where the connection is between the two movies, where you're like, wow, that, like the moment in Team America where they put the hair all over his face and they transform into a terrorist, like, kind of on that level of just ridiculous, but somehow super smart and intelligent in a way that you can't really describe until you just see it. It is smart. There is intelligence behind these jokes, and you get that sense watching it. So I really like it. It also makes me wonder, what a 5 out of 5. I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you have a 5 out of 5 comedy? Like, is that Anchorman territory? Is it old school territory? Is that even possible? Are we too old to give a comedy 5 out of 5? Like, are these made for us?
So my favorite comedy of all time, I saw in the theater as maybe a 21-year-old and hated it. And like good music, had to come around to learn to love something and to understand the amount of different levels that they were making jokes on, and understand that they're aiming at a different goalpost than a movie like the one we're about to talk about is. Comedies and dramas are targeting different things. They're not trying to weave a tale that's going to stick in your memory and make you feel something for the characters you're watching on screen. They're trying to make you laugh. And if they succeeded at that, they succeeded at their goal. And for me, a 5 out of 5 comedy that I absolutely love is Zoolander.
I was going to say that. I thought you were going to make fun of me for it. Yes,
my
totally.
favorite comedy of all time. And it's because of you. It's because of hanging out at your place when we were younger. We'd go out for the night and we'd come back and it's like, let's continue to have a few drinks and have conversation. And why not, while we do that, we have this comedy on in the background, because you don't have to pay attention to it. You can turn your head and catch a joke once in a while. And I realized every time I was looking at that screen, I was laughing. And over the years, I grew to love it. And that's my 5 out of 5 comedy. Damn,
that's really up there as well. I have something in common with you as well, where especially with comedies, I typically come out of the theater going, that wasn't good at all. We did that with Keanu, the Karate Cat, or whatever the heck that thing was called. Had to really consider, like, was that funny? I hated Team America when I first saw it. I didn't laugh until the throwing up, and I even thought, like, that's not even a funny joke. I hated Anchorman when I first saw it. I hated Zoolander when I first saw it. I hated Robin Williams, the live comedy, Live in New York or whatever.
Really?
I hated that when I first saw it. But like you said, the same with the good music, I learned to love all of them, and I learned to love them more than most movies. Like, comedy really is my favorite genre, but it's a tricky one. And it's especially tricky for, like, these types of conversations, coming immediately out of the theater, rendering a verdict, because I really think you need to think about these But the one thing that was going through my mind with this movie in particular was I can't wait to watch it again. I feel like that's a very good sign.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I just want to have a quick little conversation about comedies in general.
It.
Love that Zoolander's your favorite. I didn't know that.
I feel bad that South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut didn't get a mention in Greatest Comedies of All Time, so I'll just throw that in there.
Oh, it should have. Yep, no, total oversight on my part. I saw that. I bought, because we were too young to see that in the theaters, I had to buy tickets to Big Daddy, so I bought probably 5 or 6 tickets to Big Daddy, snuck in, and that's how Big Daddy did so well. Now Adam Sandler makes movies that are garbage. Still, probably because of all the tickets that I sold him to watch South Park. That might be my all-time favorite.
Yes, and it should be up there on the list at least, right?
Yep.
So,
all right.
Well, thank you for giving Adam Sandler a career. So, with that said, we are going to move on from this week's new movie to this week's old movie, and we got an absolute gem this week.
Says you.
According to IMDb, it says everybody.
Can you imagine if I just came in here and shit all over Shawshank?
I would love it, because I'm looking at the IMDb scores. 91 from critics. I want to read these negative reviews. I'm going to go looking for them after we're done the show. 98 from fans. Again, anybody who didn't like Shawshank Redemption, give me a call, tweet me, and let me know why it's not awesome. According to IMDb, the best reviewed movie, the best movie of all time, still number 1 on the top 250 or whatever it is, higher than Godfather, higher than Godfather 2, higher than Citizen Kane, and every movie you've ever heard brought up as the best of all time. For me, a movie that I recognized as a young man when this movie came out was operating on another level from other movies, because it was good in so many different ways. Like, I liked individual characters, I liked the story, I liked the themes, I liked the villain, right? Like, if you want to look at it as a straight up, like, tale about overcoming good versus evil, the warden and the character, the protagonist that you're rooting for, or you want to look at it as a story about humanity, if you want charm and wit at certain places, it's filmmaking on another level. It inspired me to go looking for the book. This is one of the first movies where I watched the movie and I was like, holy shit, that was based on a book, and I went and I read it. And I did not give it the old, the book was better. Like, the movie is on the book's level. They're both amazing. It's just, the Shawshank Redemption for me, oddly enough, I say all these glowing things, is probably my 5th favorite movie of all time. But if I cared about things like other people's opinions, and I wanted to say what I thought was the best movie of all time and stand up to other people's criticisms, I would put this up there. 5 out of 5, perfect movie, love Shawshank Redemption, so glad we watched it this week. How about you?
You know me, I don't call a 5 out of 5 a perfect movie. I don't believe the perfect movie exists. I think that there are tweaks to this movie that could happen. Nonetheless, even still, I'm looking at your face for the people just listen to audio. Gary is in absolute shock. There is no such thing as a perfect movie. But that's not what 5 out of 5 means to me. 5 out of 5 is what, is the highest honor I can bestow upon a movie. And I cannot think of another movie more deserving of a 5 out of 5 than that. That's a really kind of like weird way of giving that, but that's just my 5 out of 5. And I feel like that's a lot of critics' top score. I don't think most critics believe that there's a perfect anything, movie, song, album, anything, game. I don't think that exists.
Okay. Well, that's a sad.
So I refuse to call it perfect, but incredible. The thing that really, like, you talked about all the different themes there too. The thing that really is why I dive right into it. I'm on the edge of my seat and I just, like, my heart is swelling when I watch this movie, is the relationship, of course, between Tim Robbins' character and Morgan Freeman. There's this, I don't know, you have like an expectation maybe walking into this where you think he's going into prison, so he's just in for a shit show the entire time. And he does have things like uphill battles, but it's the brotherly love between, and I don't mean that just because he's black. It's you knew it was coming. It's their relationship that carries from the moment that they meet to the very last frame, that they love each other. They don't really ever say it, but they love each other, and you don't get that in too many movies. they are rooting for each other 100% of the way, and they trust each other to be vulnerable with each other in all of their thoughts of through despair of being like in the hole for a month, and what is the value of hope in a place where there is no hope, things like that. And then when there's just a little spark, they're there for each other to help lift them up out of the dirt. And that's, to me, what Shawshank Redemption is really like. That's the value that I pull out of this movie. But there is so much, like you said, there's probably a good 10, 12 different things you could really grab out of this. If you just want storytelling, it's there. If you just want character development, it's there. If your greatest fear in the whole world is being falsely accused of a crime you didn't commit, that is done really well on top of all these other things. So that is why it gets 5 out of 5 for me. But I still, not perfect, but no movie
so
is.
I want to talk about that when we go through it more in detail. If you want to add to your list of sound effects for the board, you can do a record scratch where we stop the forward progress and we have to step back. I want to tell everybody at this point who's lasted this long and yet doesn't know what this segment is in our 6 Degrees of Chill. We talk about an older movie like this it's my fault, out of our DVD collection or on a streaming service or something like that we are going to spoil the crap out of. So if by some miracle you haven't seen Shawshank Redemption, I'm super jealous of you because you get to watch this movie for the first time. But B, get the fuck out of here because we're going to ruin the entire thing top to bottom. We're going to talk about the endings, we're going to talk about the beginning. We're going to tear this thing apart because if you want to grab onto the theme of friendship as in this movie and have that be the thing that you think of, that you identify with this movie, that's a great one. But as I said, there's a lot going on here, and like you said, and I liked on this viewing, I tried to watch it with fresh eyes because I've seen the movie literally dozens of times. I would have to guess I've probably seen this movie upwards of 40 times. I've read the book 4 or 5 times. It is one of my favorite stories of all time, and I wanted to see what would this be like if you hadn't seen it before. And I liked early on that there was a sense of mystery in that they did not show in the opening courtroom scene or anything like that he definitely did do it. The audience is left wondering. You've got your assumptions, right? For me, I can't remember a time where I watched this movie and didn't know right off the bat he was innocent. But trying to watch it through those fresh eyes, like I say, they don't give you any clue.
Yep.
Other than the fact that you don't see him pull the trigger, so you assume he probably didn't, but it's just, the mystery is excellent in this movie. When the warden arrives, when he first goes to prison and the warden arrives, I was like, holy shit, how is this guy not listed alongside the Joker in the Dark Knight, right? And other, I can't believe I'm blanking on a list of one, but like iconic villains, right? Like, one of the best, most loathable bad guys. He is so smarmy and smug and awful and domineering and genuinely powerful in the sense that he wields it over them. When he says your ass is mine, you believe him. It's amazing. Bob Gunton is the name of the actor who plays Warden Norton, and it's just, oh my god, he's amazing. And then Captain Haywood, his henchman, essentially, this is what he is, right? Is his muscle. If the warden, if you thought of the warden as a gangster, right? That's his muscle. It's just, that character is, it could be in a certain way identified as terrifying.
Definitely. He is an extension. He's a physical extension of the warden. The warden doesn't even really need to say anything to him or really any of the guards. He just gives them a look and he carries out the physical threat that he's kind of getting to in his interactions with the prisoner. So he just he realizes what he wants to have happen to this guy. He gives a thought and this guy makes it happen. He just beats the living shit out of these prisoners. And you really, there's never really like that quick action camera work with any of the impacts or the traumas, but you feel sick to your stomach watching these beatings.
And extension is a great word because that makes me think of extension or expansion of the scope of Warden Norton's power, right? Sure. That he's wielding this man, this instrument as a weapon against the people that he's supposed to be that are under his charge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just, it's mesmerizing to watch on the screen.
And it's one thing too that I think a lot of people overlook with this is that it really is a period piece. And so when you look at the time, we're in the 40s when Tim Robbins goes to jail. Again, I think there is some mystery. I think a new viewer watches this and goes, I don't know if he did do it or not. So that's just another part of us going along the journey here as well. The judge points out, I don't know what to think of you. You're cold. He has no reaction to the whole proceedings. And we learn later that that's actually kind of the reason why his wife left him to cheat on him anyways, is because he wasn't emotive. He didn't know how to show his feelings. He didn't know how to be caring, even though that was in him. And it's the same thing that he's experiencing in the courtroom, where he's furious inside, but he can't do anything about it. So he remains stoic. Is that it? All right.
Well played. Yes. Cause you're right. He's in a prison of manners, right? Of his upbringing, of his, sense of behavioral,
well, he's an accountant. That's like that all
but it
plays into
his
that
entire
perfect
life.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But that like I don't know if this is a thing where like it's almost predetermined. Do accountants just become accountants because it's just in them? Like it's part of whatever personality examination there's something to that. But back to this being kind of like a period piece, the 40s being just a more raw time, and just when the warden carrying this power, yielding this power, you didn't really question it. You may question that now, like, oh, he's kind of going over the top. But the fact that it was in the 40s, 50s, 60s, as we kind of go along with this life sentence, these 2 life sentences back to back, you never really question that. Yeah, I bet it was a lot rougher back then than it probably is now. I think that prison's probably a little cushier even in the max security type of setting. So I think the time plays a lot of, it impacts the way that this all rolls out. And I don't know that that's really ever discussed or talked about with regards to Shawshank Redemption.
No, I don't think it is. And that's why I absolutely love this segment, because I've never examined this portion of it in my own mind. But I think when I hear you say that, I think, wow, what a great device by Stephen King in his original story, because he wrote this in the 80s to set it back there.
Yep.
Because it gives a sense of realism to the isolation that these men go into. Mm-hmm. There's no discussion of phone calls or communication with the outside world, right? No one here, you see a lot of movies and stories about prison, and they talk about the people who are waiting for them on the outside, or visitation, or trying to get out for their family, or whatever it was. Or I did my crime for my family. Every single person here is alone. Mm-hmm. And so you get the immediate sense that Tim Robbins is as well, right? And I never thought of the era playing such a strong part in it, but it does. There's no, like I say, there's no phone calls, there's no conjugal visits, and there's no oversight. So you talk about the believability of Warden Norton running amok and his mini dictatorship here. Absolutely, like I say, one of the things that again, when you talk about great filmmaking, you don't sometimes notice the things that you're noticing. So you don't check off in your brain, yes, I'm liking the fact that this is
because
a
period piece.
But the setting is working, because for me, I never questioned that why aren't they talking about when we get visitation, or when we call somebody, or is anybody's mother worried about them? Is anyone getting letters from their parents and stuff like that? You know what I mean? Like, the only correspondence they get.
Time is an antagonist in this movie in many ways, just itself.
Great way to put it.
And the reason that I bring this up, and it's this, I don't know if we necessarily need to go through like beat for beat. I feel like we're bringing up a lot of like the really good kind of like story points here. But when I realized that time was an integral part of this, I mean, obviously this is, they're serving life sentences or talking about years and years and years, but it wasn't until Brooksy got out of prison. He's the old man who has been institutionalized. He doesn't know how to function outside, and he's getting almost run over by cars because he's never seen this many cars before. The last time he was out, they had just invented the automobile. And so here he is 50 years later. The world is completely changed. And I don't know that there's ever a point in our history where 50 years is so transformational. So you don't have like 50 years, like 50 years ago, even from now, I think you come out into the world and go, okay, so there's iPods and the internet. And like, other than that, I don't know. It's really hard to say, but I love how harshly that was presented in this by throwing an old man out on his own. He's lost, he's scared, and just having that, having time play a role in that, I thought was very interesting. And it choked me up a little bit, that moment of, I mean, you come
incredible.
to love these characters. You don't really know what they're in there for. They talk about it a lot, that they're all innocent. I love that. It's a bit of a joke, but it's almost like a way of simplifying this because there are so many characters and we don't need to know why they're in there. That has nothing to do with this story, this tale, really.
Well, yeah, and that's one of the things that's amazing in terms of how good of a storyteller you have to be, whether it's in King's original story or Darabont's direction, where I found myself at no point checking back in with the fact, like, wait a minute, these people are all convicted murderers and thieves and possibly even worse, and yet the only people that we don't like in the prison are the rapists.
Yeah.
Right? And not even convicted rapists. People are raping other prisoners.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, everybody else is a good guy in this world that they've created.
Yep.
If you think of everything in terms of positive, negative, right? We have positive feelings with all these people, and you're so sad when Brooksy hangs himself, and you think of that whole section of the movie. All of the use of narration is great.
Yep.
Freeman is amazing. His narration is amazing. When he moves forward in years, right? And he talks about even Andy's years of abuse at the hands of the sisters, right? And he jumps years. But then they pass the narration off to Brooksy, and he's reading his own letter.
Oh man, words. That moment. So you talk about this, you've seen this so many times. I haven't seen it 40 times. It has, when I first saw it, I went on a bit of I watched it a few times. Then it's been away. I actually took this one out of the wrapper, out of a Blu-ray. So this is the first time I saw the Blu-ray. I went along with the journey at this point. This was one part that I had forgotten, that you realize 3/4 of the way through the letter that this is his suicide note. This isn't just him narrating him being outside of prison. It's such a sneaky little thing that they do. And when you realize, whether or not you do before he grabs the rope or not, it's just as powerful. And you feel so bad for him because this is clearly the only option for him. He even talks about considering more crime or just kind of doing a little something to get himself put back into prison, but he goes, I'm too old for that. Maybe that was for my younger days. So what else is there? I'm gonna carve my name up in here because I am kind of a bit of a juvenile delinquent at heart. Gonna
rebel soul.
Yep, Brooks was here. He dresses himself up, and you're just, I mean, there's nothing really much more iconic than the image of a hanging body, from a noose. And just that quiet little zoom out, and he's there, and you just, well, at least he's at peace. And this movie that it does that to me, that's a 5 out of 5 to me. Like that, it's more than just even describing it as perfect. It's just how profound an impact it has on you while you're watching it. And I talk about my heart, so my whole body swells when I see a moment like that, when I go through that whole part of him leaving, deciding that suicide is the answer, and just, oh my gosh, it's a small part of the movie too.
And well, that's the thing. So you're talking about all in a character perspective. If you want to take a more micro look in just in terms of filmmaking, the music makes that scene. The shot selection makes that scene.
The casting.
The casting's unbelievable. The choice to have him read the letter and you don't have any direct to camera dialogue, other than him talking to his boss you don't go with him to those places other than that little wave in the grocery store, right? It's all done through the letter, and they're superimposed on top of each other, and you realize at a certain point that sequence is a short film within the larger world. And this movie is so patient and you invest so much of yourself into it that it doesn't throw you at all. Mm-hmm. But you're being taken away from this prison you've been in for, at this point, I have no idea how far we are into the movie at the point of it. It just feels like part of the story. Mm-hmm. But it's a short film in the same way that, you see these heart-wrenching things before Pixar movies, or even the opening sequence of Up that you do.
Oh, he was definitely the old man from Up. Brooks is definitely the old man from Up.
Any of these montages that tug on the heartstrings, basically all of Wall-E, mm-hmm. right, is a lot of imagery and music cues to to sort of toy with your emotions as the viewer. It's so special, like you say. It's absolutely one of the moments that I remember and I think of first when I think of this movie.
Yeah, me too.
And I want to say I stand by, if we want to talk about, I want to hear what your flaws are, right? Because you're right, we won't go through a movie this good and this complex and this special beat by beat. So I want to hear what your complaints about the movie or imperfection. Mm-hmm. But I will say I have to throw this in. I stand by my statement last week that 7 is peak Freeman. He's great in this, but he's not the standout character for me. What I remember about Red from this story is that friendship between him and Tim Robbins, that interplay, right? Mm-hmm. So I think of this character as less of a performance and more of I give more credit for this performance to the writer and the director than I do 7. I think 7, Freeman is acting his balls off, and I think in this, he's letting the words on the page do the work. And this is just great writing, right? So I will still say peak Freeman was 7. But like I say, he was absolutely great in this too. But like I say, let's move on to your imperfections for this movie.
That is actually a big part of it, is that we just watched 7 where we saw Morgan Freeman, I think, stronger. I think there are... You mentioned something, I can't remember what movie it was, but is like talking about a little too ham-fisted. I think it was Brad Pitt in his kind of delivery. And maybe this is me living in a 2016 world where Morgan Freeman has become more of a caricature of himself. So his performance, to me, watching it this time around, doesn't really nail as hard as it probably did when it first came out. Actually, not even probably, as it definitely did when it first came out. Who Morgan Freeman has become definitely affected how I was watching this. And so it does kind of, it does play into it. I guess it's hard to be objective when, and really there's nothing really objective about movie reviewing. I don't believe. It's all subjective. It is all art.
How it strikes you.
It really is. And so I was taken out of it a couple of times. It's just like, here's Morgan Freeman doing his thing, but it's too bad because this is what started that all. I didn't love Tim Robbins throughout. This was a similar thing with Brad Pitt last week in 7, where there's a turn when I started to love him, but I don't love him in probably the first half of this movie. I don't think that he does the stoic thing perfectly, but it's almost there. Like, again, there's not really big nitpicks here, and I don't think we need to spend a whole lot of time on this, but I don't think it's perfect. But it is so close. Maybe this is as close to perfect as it gets. But you're really putting me on the hot speed trying to tell it. Because I don't want to make a big deal about what is not perfect about it, because it doesn't deserve that. So that's kind of
I got it. Okay, so we'll move on then. So I will just try and list in terms of...
You just want people to make fun of me, that's all. I can't believe Sean doesn't think Shawshank is a perfect movie.
Well, and I also, because like I say, I'm watching it through the filter of being so intimately close with this story, in the sense that it's probably the first movie that made me realize that I think of films on the exact same level as novels, as there are people that feel that way about stage plays. There's people that feel that way about poetry,
and
books
you
of
can get
poetry,
nitpicky
collections
about
of
stuff.
poetry.
Like,
you know what I mean?
How much weight do you put on the fact that they didn't know that there was a hole in the wall because he had a poster of a beautiful girl there? Like, they do these incredible checks and, the cell checks, and nobody accidentally leans on this thing, or they take the poster down for whatever reason. Is that part of it? Like, I don't know. There's something that the whole escape part. If there's anything that's outside of this, maybe inconsistent, that might be it. And again, is that all that it takes for this to be perfect? There's some better believability for that thing for him to have been able to, dig himself out after so many years. It fits in so well with the character, fits in with the timeline and his determination and his, journey towards hope and trying to get out of there and always having a solution in mind. That all makes sense. Doesn't make sense for him to have this giant hole in the wall. I don't know. But again, that's maybe as nitpicky as I'm getting with this movie.
Okay. So like I say, I think, to go through this movie, I'll just sort of list. I'm curious what you think of when you think of your favorite moments of this movie. So if I had to think of them, and I did not write this down ahead of time, so I'm just going off of this last viewing here. I smirk for the first time in this movie. I get my first sense of the world we're going into when Red starts taking bets on the person who's going to crack, and just the interplay between the old cons. And, like, this is what passes for entertainment in 1940s in the jails. And, of course, this is the way it is. And it felt like such a way to introduce us to all those characters and make them feel real, where you're like, oh, shit, that is what you would do with your time, right? The Brooksy scene is obviously a highlight. The symphony and his narration overplaying the music into the yard comes to mind. The negotiation for the beers on the roof comes to mind.
I love that. I didn't love the symphony scene though.
No?
I don't, and that's another, like, just kind of weird out of, the negotiation thing I think is 100% on character, and then the symphony scene, I don't know. It raises the whole question, like, why? I don't know why he did it.
See, and I feel like it landed so well because it was handled so delicately. I can remember thinking,
I love the reaction to it. I love the way that everybody stops and how they appreciate it. But again,
and in terms of not being ham-fisted, there's nobody sobbing, right? And there isn't the scene where there's a group of people in the corner who don't care, who are actually getting into, like, an Archie and Jughead type squabble where you just see pound signs and dollar signs and a cloud of dust, right? Like, there are prison tropes that you would deal with here when you have this moment of beauty in this terrible place, and I just felt like it was handled so well. I can remember one of the first times I saw it. Obviously, it's too long ago to remember the first time, but I just remember it was a great moment when I saw it early on, where I actually felt like, oh yeah, you would search for moments, you would search for positive memories, you would search for things that would affect you in this world where the passage of time, like you say, is a hindrance. It's a burden upon you, right? And this would feel like a rainbow, a beautiful day. May is a damn fine time to be working on a rooftop. A moment like that would stick with you. And the way that Darabont spaces out these positive moments, these good memories, almost gives you a sense of, like, being one of the prisoners, where it's all negative and drab and you're in a prison and it's hopeless and we're just trying to get through our time and survive. And then these beacons, these bright moments, these good days, right? And it's the equivalent for me, I think, of when the summertime comes in our lives and we all get together with our friends, and you have birthdays and you have weddings and you have these celebrations, and you've sort of got that storytelling arc to their lives, to these people that you start to think of as people you know. Just, like I say, great moments to me. So do you have, like I do, like, individual images that jump out when you think of Shawshank?
So you name the Brooksy one is definitely like, that's and I agree with your comments about getting into the prison. I think that, again, not having watched this in so long, you're not sure, are these people volatile, the people making the bets on the new prisoners. So the entry into the prison by proxy through these newbies coming into the prison, you're also new to the prison. So I thought that was done really well. You're not sure who's out to kill these people, these new guys. Is it everyone? Is it nobody? You get the sense that they're in probably greater danger than they turn out to be. There's a lot of friendships to be made here. So I love that. The scene in this movie that really did it for me, aside from those others that we mentioned with Brooksy's number one. Number two is when we meet Tommy, the kind of like the Elvis kind of wannabe. He's got a lot of attitude. He comes in, and then you realize really how vulnerable he is, and he's got this great connection with Tim Robbins' character. And this is where you start to realize Tim Robbins been in here for a while. Like, he is now becoming the older man. He's becoming a little wiser. He knows the ways of the prison, and new prisoners are coming to him for mentorship in a way. And they have a bit of a squabble at first, but Tommy realizes that there's a lot to be gained from friendship with Andy. So, in one of those ways is to pass his high school, or get his high school diploma by taking the test. And we realize really why Tommy was going to crime throughout his whole life is because he's kind of a dummy. He's got a street sense, but he doesn't have book sense. He doesn't really even know how to read. They have a quick little, he doesn't read good, and he explains he doesn't read well, and they have a little moment there, and the smarter people watching the movie can go, haha, and the dumb kid doesn't know what's going on. So you come to really you come to love Tommy very quickly, just almost in the same way that Andy does. He takes him under his wing. He wants him to flourish and grow. And this is another project for Andy because he had done the library before. He's working his way through his time in interesting ways. So it's like he's giving back. So you like Tommy a lot. We come to learn that Tommy knows the guy who killed Andy's wife and the lover, through the story of a very talkative cellmate from a previous prison. And what are the chances that this is the guy? And the guy who's cast as the true killer is truly despicable. It's absolutely perfect. He is just tickled pink that he got away with it. And the irony behind Andy was actually pinned for the murders. So, this sets off a whole little mini path of the movie where Tommy tells this to Andy, and Andy just can't believe it. This is the ray of light he's been waiting for. It's the hope that he needs. Goes to the warden, and this is where we realize how despicable the warden is. We knew that he's physically brutal, but what lows does he go to make sure that he maintains his status and his power? Goes to pretty terrible, and so do his staff. So he's so
obtuse.
He is very obtuse. And of course you think of Family Guy and all that. Gosh, maybe that's the other thing that's really making this not a perfect movie for me is just how many times it was parodied. So maybe that might be taking me out of it a little bit. But nonetheless, the visual that sticks with me is the warden turning his back on Tommy. He's putting his cigarette out, and he looks up at the sniper in the guard tower, and he shoots him right in the chest. And you just feel for him, and you don't want it. He just is so ruthless in that moment, and Tommy dies, and that's a moment for me that I will remember forever in this movie. If you love this character, you hate the other guy, and if there was any hope, it's all gone in an instant, and there's nothing anybody can do about it.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned it because that was one of the ones that I left off there, because the whole Tommy side story feels like another digression for a large portion of it. Like you say, it's another project for him, and you realize later that it's all a device to get to Andy's breaking point, because Tommy's death is what breaks him and commits him to get busy living or get busy dying and complete his project and get the hell out of here, right? Mm-hmm. So, and it's such a great way of doing it by bringing in a new character and refreshing the story and pulling you away from maybe there would have been someone, had they not done it this way, who would have started thinking about the length of this movie and where is this going, you know what I mean? And why are we spending too much time here? And like you say, he's aged 25 years at this point. He's feeling patriarchal. He's the old grizzled guy. It's absolutely brilliant storytelling on everybody's part. Like I say, I like giving a lot of credit to Stephen King for this, because I'm a huge fan of his work in the original story. But Darabont, like I say, deft touch here, absolutely dances his way through this entire script. I feel like the reason I talk about perfection is less about story points. You have a good point with them tossing the cells and never placing a hand on that poster. But I just mean in terms of a shot choice and direction and stuff like that. As a movie, there isn't a wasted moment in here. Every character that they add, everybody they spend time with, it feels so earned, and it feels so, everything has an impact, right? I mean, the catharsis you feel when Boggs gets beaten down by Captain Haywood.
Yes.
Right? And
every sense of redemption here is well earned.
It's ridiculous. The feeling you get when he's escaped, he's crawling through the tunnel, you watch him puke in the tunnel, right? And then you watch him strip off his shirt and bask in the rain on the other side of the fence. It feels triumphant as a viewer, right? I still get misty after seeing the thing 40 times. It's just, it feels so just. You know what I mean?
And it's a tough scene to pull off. That part about him climbing out of the shithole and into the rain, I mean, almost similar. You see a lot of this in movies. It's like Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and he finally lands in England and he smashes his face into the beach. It's that acting kind of crazy just because of you cannot believe where you found yourself, the escape and the journey that you've been on, and to hit the destination and do something kind of dumb, kind of like who runs out into the rain and rips their shirt off, but he's getting his prison clothes off and he's getting his shit stained prison clothes. Get this off of me. So it's a difficult thing, to really nail. I think they do a pretty good job of it, but those scenes are always kind of weird for me, but that's my own personal, I think it's shot nicely, a little convenient that he happened to escape on a thunderstorm night. He's smashing the pipes. But again, not a big deal. Not perfect.
I love that you keep bringing those things up to make sure I don't think of it as perfect. I love it.
It's the bandana on the Terminator's
T-800,
head. Yeah.
Okay, well, like I say, I respect the hell out of it. I had so much fun during this conversation. A little different than the way we've done in the past, going through beat by beat, but there's so much that's indescribable here. If you watched the movie with us this week, there was no value in describing scene by scene, and we would have done such a poor job painting the picture. And I had a lot of fun talking about this. I had a great time. I will say, I watch it now, with such an eye for trivia and sort of, little, notes that I've learned about the story over years and years and years.
Very quotable too, like a lot of really quotable, good lines.
I don't know if you know the baseball scene where he first goes and asks him for his first rock hammer, and Morgan Freeman's tossing a ball around. Took them some ridiculous number, like 11 days to shoot. And
I didn't know that.
At a certain point, Morgan Freeman was showing up in a sling for the next day's shooting because his arm was worn out and gone, and he couldn't throw anymore, and he regretted so much the decision to be tossing a ball while they filmed this scene or something like that. So whether I've got the number wrong, it was 11 days or 11 consecutive hours. He fucked up his arm filming that scene. In the same scene, he introduces himself as Red, and he says, maybe it's because I'm Irish.
Yeah.
And the reason that's a book reader's joke, right? Because the character is supposed to be like an old Irish ginger. Like, you picture redheaded Ron Perlman.
Yeah.
Is how the character is described in the book, right? And it's such a great casting choice to mix it up like that. The funny thing I think of also when I think about this movie is how
black actors matter.
Black actors do matter. I think this might be like the only thing I've ever really enjoyed Tim Robbins in. I liked him as a smarmy piece of shit in High Fidelity, but can you think of anything else?
No, and that, again, it's a casting choice for me. He does very well in it, but I don't love Tim Robbins at all. So he pulls it out in the end. And again, he really gives it to the warden. I just want him finished with that. Like, his final prank that he pulled, he ruins everything. He wins the day. And then when the two come together in the end, they find each other on the beach. It's not romantic because it's not supposed to be. It's just they've overcome incredible odds to find each other and to just live out the rest of their lives in paradise. And they've romanticized this idea forever. And the execution of that in the end is really the payoff that this movie deserves. There's so many movies that build up and up and up and then don't know how to end it. You talked about a perfect ending last week. This is also a perfect ending, but for a totally different reason. It's not about tension, but it is about payoff and about determination and doing it in a believable way. Like, it sort of does make sense that they found each other, even though that seems really unlikely. But still, they see each other from across the beach. He gives them a look, and they just give each other that knowing hug. And it's just really incredible.
It's a great feeling of catharsis and karmic justice, and then the fact
you
don't need to see anymore. The idea that you're going to live out your days in peace on your own terms is just all we needed. So, like I say, great viewing. Thank you so much, whoever we recommended that last week.
I believe that was Antonio Guillen.
Oh, fantastic, Antonio. But we need to do this again. We need to move on from Shawshank Redemption to next week's 6 Degrees of Chill movie.
Might not have been Antonio, I can't remember.
A bunch of suggestions this week, and we thank you guys so much for your continued contributions. We got another awesome list. You get an awesome movie with a great cast. You get awesome lists of movies to watch next week. I did not enter any suggestions this week, although I wanted to put a real thin connection. My last piece of nerd trivia, Shawshank Redemption, the book, is actually a novella. It's only like 190 pages long, and it's part of a collection of short stories that Stephen King did. And two of the other three stories in that collection have become really big movies, one of them bigger than the other, but Shawshank Redemption was obviously the biggest. Stand By Me is the other one I would have recommended as being part of that book series. And I don't know if you remember a movie with Brad Renfro and Ian McKellen called Apt Pupil, but one of the most fucked up dark thriller stories I've ever seen. It is just awesome. That book is awesome. Go find a book by Stephen King called Different Seasons and read Shawshank Redemption and read the other stories in there. But I stayed out of it because we got so many great suggestions this week, Sean.
So many. I've run the random number generator.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Don't say it yet, because I do want to give a couple shout outs here. Thank you guys so much. It's very quite encouraging. I don't know if you guys know that it means so much to Gary and I that you guys listen, and even more that you share and that you contribute these movies. I feel bad for guys like Corey Hicks who have been wanting us to watch The Lion King for so long. And, gosh, who else? Did we miss? Where's Corey Giltner? I can't see him though. There he is. Corey Giltner. And he mentioned Howard the Duck, for fuck's sakes. I wanted so badly to land on The Lion King or Howard the Duck.
And I want to shout out Corey. I saw his response to our Facebook call out that we put out there, and even though he didn't share it and double his own chances, I accepted Thane's nomination or seconding of your nomination, put that in there, and he did share. So we had 3 Howard the Ducks in the random number generator, and we still couldn't land on it. But we had Howard the Ducks in here. We had The Lion King, which Corey Hicks has been going after.
Mm-hmm. Matt Fode's list. All Fight the Club. Batmans.
Matt Fode, yeah, put all the Morgan Freeman Batmans. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves from Fed. I was excited if that would have come up, right?
Oh, that's such a good connection to the Robin
Starship. Yeah, Starship Troopers. Like, I would have loved to go from this to Starship Troopers. Like, so many great suggestions this week.
Bill and Ted's from Corey again. Bobby Paul's with the Green Mile. Gosh, what else comes out here? Fight Club. Yeah, but none of those are picked. In case you guys didn't know, like if you've seen the list on Facebook and you're wondering, okay, well, what the heck else is left? You can all thank Blair Hamilton for Highlander.
Yeah.
The movie is Highlander. Thank you, Blair. Thank you so much for contributing. Again, I'm not going to go on another tirade like I did with, I think we almost lost Jen. Wait a minute. Where's Jen? We need to pause the podcast. This is not the answer. We've done this once before. Jen did reply. We had some from Ed Placencia as well. This is all wrong. All wrong. We need
You're this committed to not watching Highlander, you want to put Jen's entries in there and then respin it because we missed them?
That's one way you could put it.
Where did Jen contribute this week? What were her suggestions?
A couple of these come in on Twitter. So I'm gonna actually edit this just so that you know. We'll be back.
And we're back. And Blair, you just got totally fucked. Well, maybe not. There's a chance we could end up watching one of your suggestions or Highlander as well. I was excited to watch Highlander. Sean so committed to the concept of not watching Highlander that he was like, wait a minute, we should have more suggestions than this. And I'm glad he did, because it turns out that in terms of totally fucking people, Jen Belland got no respect for hashtagging hashtag Nerdflix and Chill and hashtag 6DOC in the suggestions that she made. And Julian and Ed got in suggestions late or through Twitter to us that we almost missed. And I'm so glad Ed went with Stand By Me and At Pupil in his list. I got all the respect in the world now for At Ed Placencia. And all good suggestions. At Pupil, Demolition Man, High Fidelity, Sin City, The Dark Knight again and again and again. I think The Dark Knight is now in here like 9 times with the Jen remembered to share on Twitter as well, so she got an extra opportunity. Other people got doubled, like Thane for sharing the Facebook comment. So we've now we've got upwards of 40 suggestions in here, and Sean's going to spin it up for us and announce for us a winner.
I have one more click to go. You're going to get my true reaction. Here it is. The number I did it wrong. That is still not correct. I'm still just about there. I can see it already. Guys. Gary, you can see me doing this. It's happening. Everybody's on the edge of their seat. And why isn't it giving me the number that's highest at the top? It's still happening. It's still happening. You're on the edge of your seat. I just want the values. We're gonna sort this thing, and the number one answer is yes! Matt Fody! Batman Begins!
That was not worth that much yelling to end up on Batman Begins. But I am excited to watch it. It's gonna be a change in tone from what we just watched, and something that when would we ever get a chance to give our opinion on a movie that's 14 years old that I remember very much liking. So I'm excited to see Batman Begins. That's super anticlimactic.
I make one promise. Next week I will triple check that we include everybody. I apologize, you guys. I was trying to get sound effects into this episode. That didn't work, and then we messed up the 6 degrees of chill. Blair, I might have to watch Highlander as well, and just give it a quick...
I think that we've got great fans, and they're going to respect the indie / totally amateur hour nature of this podcast, and the fact that we're doing this.
We promise nothing
in the middle on work nights for free, and so happy to do it. Couldn't be more excited. I love this, and only one piece of business.
We don't get paid for this, but we love it.
But we love it. We're still looking for that Audible sponsorship, or if anybody out there has a small business. Or
honestly, we'll take a dry cleaning sponsorship.
Yeah, exactly.
If anybody knows like a steam cleaning, like carpet cleaner company, we'll take that. A1 cleaning.
I'll podcast with a condoms.com hat on YouTube. Like, I have no problem.
No problem there either. Nope.
So we've got one little piece of business to take care of left over, and that's what's the new movie we're going to go see next week. And we have a couple movies that we've actually talked about in our trailer segment. And that's War Dog, starring Jonah Hill and Miles Teller, and Ben-Hur, Judah Ben-Hur, with so sorry about that. Ben-Hur, starring a bunch of white guys, and Morgan Freeman with white dreads, with long white dreads. So excited for one of those?
Yeah, no, it's War Dogs for sure.
War Dogs for sure. We can't go see Ben-Hur even though it's going to be a giant pile.
God, it's going to be awful. I can't wait to see War Dogs. Ben-Hur doesn't deserve my money, even if it is to rip it to shreds after the fact.
I gotta be honest. I hope it sucks. I have a lot of fun when we criticize movies, and we've seen so much good stuff recently. And
we saw Jason Bourne last 2 weeks ago.
I guess that's true.
Independence Day, but...
I think I'm just upset that
Warcraft,
we're not watching. So we'll go see War Dogs. That's our new movie for this week. If you guys are going to the theaters, go check it out. We're going to go see that and give you our opinion next week. And then we're going to watch Batman Begins, which I'm excited for. And we'll sit down and we'll tear that apart in 6 Degrees of Chill. We'll talk about all the little details of that guy. And I couldn't be more excited. So, with that said, another episode in the books. So glad to have you. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, everybody, for sharing and retweeting and all the stuff you do and telling a friend. That's the only way we grow. That's how we keep this thing going. We're late into month 4 of doing this, and I'm so glad that this came up. So remember to tweet me at Gary T Movies, tweet Sean at Sean Capri, tweet the site at We the Nerdy. Go to the site. So many new podcasts, excited new stuff going on at We the Nerdy every day and every week. And what else you got, Sean? Are we done?
We're done. Say goodbye to, I don't know what I'm talking about here. It is so late. Thank you guys so much for listening. I don't have anything on We the Nerdy this week. We the Gamercast is a video game podcast I do. It's on Mondays on iTunes and Google Play. I also do If We Ran Nintendo with Bobby, the Nintendo Guru Pauls. That's on Tuesdays-ish, Thursdays, Wednesdays, whenever he feels like it. Not on We the Nerdy, but he also did an article on We the Nerdy. You should check that out. He's doing some Nintendo stuff there. Very, very cool. We're wrapping things up. I've got a Sully doll in my hand. A doll or
Sean's going to continue his slow evolution into becoming a furry. And we will see you guys next Friday. Have a good one.
Bye. Love you.